Welcome, Temple fam. I'm jumping in on today because I want to talk about embodiment as the means of releasing fear. And what I mean by that is that when we are on this process of soul initiation, here to serve our purpose, and we often come up against these obstacles where it's like everything could go wrong. And we have all these ideas around what might happen if that's the case. And there's a lot of fear, a lot of density. So if you're looking to start a business, how this may show up is like you leaving your job and you're like, I can't do that because if I do that, I'll run out of money and I'll be broke and I'll have no way of surviving. Like that may be a fear that lives in your somatic body. And with that in there, it makes it very difficult to take that step because your body goes into contraction, your nervous system heightens because it's like, I can't do this, and you go into a survival response. Now, when we are in a survival response, it's very hard to be consciously creating because we're operating underneath that fear. It's like, I need to just survive, and we go to start reaching outside of ourselves to try and find a way to escape, basically. And it doesn't work. So embodiment is the way we can actually begin to process and meet that fear. Now, embodiment doesn't have to be a specific practice, but what it is actually feeling the emotions, feeling the experience that lives within the body. So people have positive affirmations and they tell themselves everything's going to be okay. But when they're doing that, it's coming from the mind and they haven't felt the fear that lives within the body. Now, the fear is what keeps them stuck. It's what limits them because it's like, and if you're telling yourself, I'm safe up here, but down here, there's all this fear and contraction, well, it's actually not embodied. So we're looking at how you can bring this into the body. And the first piece is to allow yourself to experience the emotion. So why people are so resistant to the circumstance happening is it's not actually about the circumstance, it's about the underlying emotion that is created within that situation. If you're like this story before about going broke, or like if you start a business, etc., it's not really about going broke. It's about the story that's created from that and then that emotion that is tied into that story. So if you're in that situation, the fear may be, I'm going to go broke. Underneath that, the story is no one will love me, or I'm a failure. And the feeling is that abandonment of no one loving you. So that feeling is what keeps a person stuck in that. This is how the core wound relates to entrepreneurship and business and stepping into this, because you need to meet these survival mechanisms to allow yourself to expand into possibility. And that can be quite confronting for a lot of people. It invites you to go beyond what you know before. So how can you feel that? How can you actually come in relationship to the fear? So this is where a lot of the positive affirmations can be counterintuitive, because a lot of people are telling themselves, I can't feel that, or I can't allow that, because if I do, then I'm going to create that reality. Like we live in the age of The Secret, where people are like, if I feel that, if I allow that, then I'm going to create it. So we're very resistant to feeling it. But in that, there's a level of attachment to not feeling that thing. There's a force away from it. So we're holding it out there. But then over time, we move towards burnout. This is why so many people experience burnout, because they're trying to hold away the thing they're afraid of. So they're pushing until eventually it collapses in on themselves because you can't hold it there. You actually need to move it through the body and breathe through that experience so you can begin to heal. So this is what is required. It's the meeting of it. So firstly, you need to come into relationship with the worst case scenario. What are you truly afraid of? What's the thing that you're like, I can't have that happening? Because if you stay afraid of that, which means not experiencing it, because once you allow it to move through you, well, you'll stop being afraid of it and be like, oh, that was actually okay. I survived. Like, this is a primal brain situation. So it's like, I can't experience that because it makes you feel like you're going to die if you experience it. So this is actually rewiring that primal part of yourself that is so attached to survival and coming into a more conscious state. So by stopping your rejection of it and being like, okay, I can feel this, I can allow this into me, what happens is you begin to adapt your nervous system to being with that sensation, and you're in a state of non-resistance, acceptance of like, this could happen. And once you come into relationship with that, well, you don't need to push, you don't need to force, you don't need to do any of that, and something else begins to occur. And you can actually be like, okay, worst case scenario, this happens. There's a restfulness and a release that happens within the nervous system and the body where it's like, you like my robot noise? I do. But it's like your system is like, oh, this is okay. It's safe to be here. So it goes beyond this fighting situation that so many people have ingrained, because that's the way we've adapted with the world. It's like, I need to fight to prove I'm worthy, that I'm good enough. And it's like, actually you don't. You're whole, you're innately worthy, you get to experience what you are here to experience. So when you let go of the fear and allow yourself to experience it, you then begin to allow yourself to move in the direction that you want. So, okay, cool. You get to have what you want. You get to move towards what you want in this world. So no longer do you need to stay afraid. And then once you do that, well, it's like, cool, the resistance. And you still got to go take the action after this. It's not like this is just clear as everything, though I've had experiences where it's been around money, and then after I've done a practice or a way to feel this, money's just come to me. Like, that is a possibility. It is possible to create that, but it's not really why we're doing it. We're not doing this so magic just happens, and like that can still happen, but really we're doing this to clear the resistance. So then no longer you're afraid, and you have conscious agency to choose what you're creating. Because the fear, well, you're often going to create the fear because you're like, I can't create that. So you put an energy towards that, and so you eventually create it. But if you let it go, it's like, oh, I'm not afraid of that. You can then choose where you're directing your energy, and this allows you to have more intent, more energy towards what you want to see in this world, which just changes dynamics extremely powerfully. So embodiment is a way that we actually allow that emotion and not just mindset it over it, and feel that emotion so we can come into our bodies, release the trauma, the pain, and begin to create a different reality. So embody it. Let the fear be there and allow your life to change.